If you keep attracting emotionally immature men, it's not bad luck, it's a pattern. Well, welcome to day 37. I'm Dr. Nicole, and today we're talking about something that affects so many high achieving women: why you keep attracting emotionally immature men and how to break that cycle. This isn't about male bashing or giving up on men. This is about understanding the psychology behind attraction patterns and learning how to use your feminine energy to attract emotional maturity instead of emotional chaos. If you're tired of dating men who can't communicate, who avoid commitment, who are hot and cold, or who seem incapable of deep emotional connection, this is going to change everything for you. Let's start by identifying what emotional immaturity actually looks like, because sometimes we normalize behaviors that are actually red flags. Emotionally immature men avoid difficult conversations. They shut down, change the subject, or get defensive when you try to address issues in the relationship. They can't regulate their emotions. They either have explosive anger or sulk when they don't get their way, or they use emotional manipulation to get what they want. They struggle with accountability. Everything is always someone else's fault. They can't apologize genuinely or take responsibility for their impact on others. They're inconsistent in their words and actions. They say one thing and do another. They make promises that they don't keep, and their behavior is unpredictable. They have poor communication skills, so they can't express their feelings, needs, or concerns in a healthy way. They use sarcasm, stonewalling, or aggression instead of just basic, honest communication. They avoid commitment or responsibility. They want the benefits of a relationship without the commitment. They keep their options open to avoid making decisions about the future. And as a result, they're self centered. They struggle to see your perspective, consider your needs, or show genuine empathy for your experiences. The key thing to understand is that emotional maturity isn't about age, it's about emotional development. You can meet a 40-year-old man who's emotionally 16 and a 25-year-old who's emotionally much more mature than that. Here's what's fascinating: high functioning, successful women often tolerate emotional immaturity in ways that other women wouldn't. You're used to fixing things. That's one of the things that drives this. You're competent, capable, and used to solving problems. So when you meet a man with emotional issues, your instinct is to help him grow, heal, or improve. And then you confuse potential with reality. You see who he could be instead of who he is right now. You think he just needs the right woman, or he'll change when he realizes how good we are together. You overfunction in relationships. So you take on the emotional labor, the planning, the communication. You become the relationship manager, which enables his immaturity. And then you mistake intensity for intimacy. The drama, the chaos, the emotional roller coaster feels like passion. You confuse the adrenaline of uncertainty with the excitement of love. You have unhealed patterns. Maybe you grew up with emotionally immature parents, so this dynamic feels very familiar. Maybe you learned that love requires struggle or that you have to earn affection. You're afraid of being alone. You rather be with someone emotionally unavailable than to be single, so you settle for less than you deserve. The problem is that when you tolerate emotional immaturity, you're essentially training men that this behavior is acceptable with you. Let's talk about chemistry versus emotional capacity. One of the biggest mistakes women make is confusing chemistry with emotional capacity. Chemistry is about attraction, excitement, and physical emotional connection. It's the spark, the butterflies, the feeling that you click with someone. Emotional capacity is about someone's ability to handle relationships, communicate effectively, and show up consistently as a partner. You can have incredible chemistry with someone who has zero emotional capacity. In fact, sometimes the chemistry is so strong because the relationship is chaotic. The uncertainty creates adrenaline that feels like passion. But chemistry without emotional capacity creates relationships that are exciting, but they're unstable, passionate, but painful, intense, but ultimately unfulfilling. Emotionally mature men might not give you butterflies on the first date, but they give you something much more valuable: consistency, safety, and the ability to build something real together. The goal isn't to choose boring, the goal is to find men who create the goal is to find men who can create both chemistry and stability, both passion and peace. Now, here's the beautiful thing: when you embody feminine clarity, you naturally repel emotionally immature men. Feminine clarity means you know what you want, you communicate it clearly, and you don't accept less than you deserve. You don't over explain or justify your needs. You simply state what works for you and what doesn't. You don't try to convince anyone to want you. You present yourself authentically and let them decide if they're interested. You don't tolerate disrespect or inconsistency. You address issues directly and calmly, without drama or ultimatums. You don't chase or pursue. You respond to genuine interest and effort, but you don't try to create it. You don't fix or heal anyone. You accept people as they are and decide what works for you. This is so important. This clarity is threatening to emotionally immature men because it requires them to step up or step out. They can't manipulate you, confuse you, or keep you in limbo. But it's incredibly attractive to emotionally mature men because it shows them that you're a woman who knows her worth and who won't settle for less. Boundaries are like a filter system for your dating life. They automatically sort men into two categories: those who respect you and those who don't. Emotionally immature men will push against your boundaries, try to negotiate them, or make you feel guilty for having them. Emotionally mature men will respect your boundaries and often appreciate them because they show that you're a woman who values herself, and that is so attractive. When you have clear boundaries around how you want to be communicated with, what kind of behavior you'll accept, how much inconsistency you will tolerate, what your expectations are for relationships, then you make it impossible for emotionally immature men to stay in your life for the long term. They'll either step up to meet your standards or they'll remove themselves from the equation altogether. This is why boundaries aren't just protective, they're selective. They help you attract the kind of men who are capable of healthy relationships. So let's talk about some feminine shifts to attract maturity. Ask fewer questions, observe more. Instead of interviewing men about their intentions, their feelings, their plans, simply observe their behavior. Actions reveal character more than words ever will. Watch how they treat service workers, how they handle stress, how they talk about their ex partners. Slow emotional intimacy. Don't share your deepest thoughts, feelings, and experiences with someone that you barely know. Emotional intimacy should be earned over time through consistent, trustworthy behavior. Emotionally immature men often love bomb in the beginning. They want deep intimacy because it feels intense and exciting, but they can't sustain that level of connection. Therefore, sometimes it feels like they ghost. Emotionally mature men are comfortable with gradual intimacy because they're thinking long term, not just immediately. Watch consistency, not words. So you want to pay attention to patterns over time, not just individual moments. Does he do what he says he's going to do? Is his communication regular and reliable? Does he show up the same way, whether he's happy, stressed, or dealing with challenges? Consistency is the hallmark of emotional maturity. Inconsistency is the hallmark of emotional immaturity. When you stop attracting emotionally immature men, your entire experience with relationships transforms. You stop feeling like you're constantly trying to figure out where you stand. You stop making excuses for poor behavior. You stop hoping that someone will change. Instead, you start attracting men who are clear about their intentions, consistent in their actions, and capable of building something real with you. You realize that healthy relationships aren't supposed to be constant work. They're supposed to feel like partnerships, not like you're a project manager. Immature men fall away when you stop over accommodating them, when you stop making excuses for their behavior, stop trying to fix their problems, and stop accepting less than you deserve. They naturally remove themselves from your life, and that creates space for the emotionally mature men who are looking for a woman who's exactly like you. Make sure you hit subscribe for day 38, where I'm sharing my wellness non negotiables, the daily practices that keep me grounded and feminine. Tell me in the comments, what's one boundary you need to set to stop attracting emotional immaturity? I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Dr. Nicole.